Empress Kaida had always enjoyed watching species crumble. From her crystalline command chamber suspended in the void between dimensions, she could taste their fear through her bioneural crown, literally. The crown's organic filaments pulsed with each spike of terror from the primitive beings below, feeding her the delicious cocktail of hopelessness and desperation that made conquest so satisfying. Today's flavor was particularly exquisite. Earth. Such a quaint name for a dirt ball. The humans have been broadcasting their surrender negotiations for 3 cycles now, their pathetic representative, some bureaucrat named Elena Vasquez, sitting in that sterile conference room looking appropriately terrified. Kaida's crown confirmed it: elevated cortisol, rapid heart rate, microtremors in the vocal cords. All the usual markers of a species realizing they were thoroughly outgunned. "Let me be clear about your situation," Kaida purred into the quantum relay, her voice carrying across the light years to Earth's makeshift diplomatic center. "Your entire planetary defense consists of, what was it again?" She made a show of consulting her tactical display. 47 ships. And those are generous classifications, considering half of them are retrofitted cargo haulers. Elena shifted in her chair, and Kaida's crown practically hummed with the woman's anxiety. "Beautiful. We understand our position, Your Magnificence," Elena replied, her voice steady despite what the crown was telling Kaida about her terror. "We're prepared to discuss terms." Kaida leaned back in her throne, the bioluminescent crystal formations around her pulsing in rhythm with her amusement. This was how it always went. First, the species would posture and bluff. Then they'd see her hegemony's true power, 7,000 warships capable of quantum-folding spacetime itself. And reality would set in. She'd conquered 43 civilizations this way. The formula never failed. "Terms," Kaida repeated, savoring the word. "How delightfully optimistic. Let me offer you some perspective, Elena Vasquez of the Dirtball Earth. Your primitive fusion engines couldn't reach our slowest scout ship. Your weapons fire projectiles that move at the speed of, well, projectiles. Meanwhile, my vessels manipulate fundamental forces your physicists are still struggling to understand in theory." She gestured, and holographic displays materialized around the chamber showing Earth's pathetic fleet formations. 47 ships. Some weren't even military, she could see civilian transponder codes on at least 12 of them. "Your options are simple," Kaida continued. "Unconditional surrender, followed by integration into our post-scarcity economic model as a managed species. You'll retain local governance over matters we deem sufficiently insignificant. In exchange, your people will provide what all managed species provide: cultural diversity for our entertainment archives and biological samples for our enhancement programs." Elena was quiet for a long moment. Her biometrics were strange. The cortisol levels were dropping. Heart rate normalizing. That wasn't typical behavior for a species facing extinction. "That's a generous offer, Your Magnificence," Elena finally said, and there was something in her tone that made Kaida's crown itch. "Not fear. Something else. Before we proceed, though, there's something you should probably know about those 47 ships." "Oh." Kaida's interest was piqued despite herself. What could this primitive possibly tell her that her surveillance networks hadn't already catalogued? Elena leaned forward slightly, and for the first time since negotiations began, she smiled. Not the desperate, pleading smile of the conquered, but something far more unsettling. "Well, the thing is, they're not our fleet. They're just the ships we wanted you to see." The words hung in the quantum relay like a glitch in reality. Kaida's crown sputtered, struggling to process Elena's biometrics. No fear. No desperation. Instead, there was something that made the Empress's enhanced nervous system recoil. Satisfaction. "I'm sorry, what did you just?" "Computer," Elena said, not to Kaida but to someone off-screen, "initiate Protocol 77 Alpha. Full decloak." The tactical displays around Kaida's chamber erupted in warnings. Her crown shrieked as thousands, no, not thousands, of new contacts materialized on her sensors. Ships. Massive ships. Ships that had been sitting in quantum-fold space, invisible to her supposedly omniscient detection arrays. 5,000 of them. Each one broadcasting weapon signatures that made her hegemony vessels look like the retrofitted cargo haulers she'd just mocked. Kaida's throne began to crack under the pressure of her grip. Her crown was feeding her Elena's biometrics now, and what she tasted made her stomach clench. Not fear. Not desperation. Pure, calculated amusement. You see, Your Magnificence, Elena continued conversationally, as if she hadn't just revealed that humanity possessed the largest military force in known space. We've been watching your hegemony for about 3 centuries now. Studying your tactics. Your technology. Your psychology. The Empress's perfectly controlled breathing began to stutter. That's impossible. Our surveillance detected no advanced industrial capacity. No shipyards. No shipyards you could see, Elena corrected. Amazing what you can hide in folded spacetime when you've had a few hundred years to perfect the technique. Kaida's crown was screaming now, overwhelmed by sensory input it couldn't process. The fear it had been designed to harvest and feed to her was nowhere to be found. Instead, it kept trying to analyze Elena's emotional state and coming back with readings that made no sense. The human wasn't afraid. She was entertained. The crystalline formations around Kaida's chamber began to pulse erratically, responding to her escalating panic. 3 centuries. The humans had been watching for 3 centuries while her empire expanded, conquered, and celebrated its technological supremacy. Every tactical doctrine, every psychological profile, every weakness in her hegemony's structure, they've been cataloging it all. This is impossible, Kaida whispered, her voice cracking. Our post-scarcity surveillance matrix monitors every technological development in this sector. We would have detected. Detected what? Elena interrupted, her smile widening. Industrial heat signatures. Quantum resonance from shipyards. Resource depletion patterns. She shook her head. Kaida, sweetie, you've been detecting exactly what we wanted you to detect. Did you really think a species capable of interstellar travel would be too stupid to fake archaeological evidence? The Empress felt something she hadn't experienced in 2 millennia, genuine terror. Not the theatrical fear she inflicted on others, but raw, primal panic. Her crown, designed to feed her the emotions of conquered species, was now drowning her in her own horror. Those primitive settlements you discovered, Elena continued, pulling up holographic displays that showed Kaida's own surveillance footage, those early industrial cities, those adorably inefficient fusion reactors, all theater. We've been running the galaxy's longest con, and you've been our most enthusiastic audience. Kaida's breath came in ragged gasps. The bioneural crown, it reads truth. It reads fear. I tasted your terror. You tasted what I wanted you to taste, Elena said, and for the first time, her voice carried an edge of genuine menace. Did you think we couldn't reverse engineer your precious crown technology? We've been feeding you false biometrics for decades. Every negotiation, every surrender, every moment you thought you were reading our emotions, you were reading a script. The Empress's throne room began to spin. Not physically, her enhanced inner ear could detect actual motion, but psychologically. Everything she'd built her identity on, everything that made her empire function, was crumbling. The hegemony's entire strategy depended on technological superiority and psychological dominance. They didn't conquer through overwhelming force, they conquered through the fear of overwhelming force. But what happened when the fear was fabricated? When the inferior species was actually running the show? You want to know the really funny part? Elena leaned back in her chair, completely relaxed now that the facade was dropping. Your empire isn't even real. Not in any meaningful sense. You rule through intimidation, not strength. 7,000 ships sounds impressive until you realize they're designed to terrorize civilizations with 47 vessels, not fight peers with 5,000. Kaida's crown began to smoke. The organic filaments, overloaded with contradictory data and her own cascading psychological breakdown, started to burn. She clawed at it, but the neural interfaces had grown too deep into her enhanced nervous system. Removing it would kill her. The beautiful irony, Elena continued, her voice now carrying the calm satisfaction of someone who'd spent centuries planning this moment, is that you actually helped us. Every time you conquered a species, you demonstrated your weaknesses. Every tactical doctrine you employed, every psychological manipulation you used, we catalogued it all. Your empire became our laboratory for studying authoritarianism. Through the agony of her crown's malfunction, Kaida managed one final question: what? What do you want? Elena's expression shifted, and for the first time, Kaida saw something that might have been genuine emotion. Not cruelty or satisfaction, but something far more complex. Disappointment, perhaps. Or pity. We want you to understand something, Kaida. Your empire, your hegemony, your whole identity as a superior species, it was always an illusion. You've been playing a game where we wrote the rules, and now. Elena gestured to the 5,000 ships surrounding Kaida's position. Now the game is over. The Empress slumped in her cracking throne, her crown finally dying in a shower of sparks and organic fluid. Without its enhancement, reality hit her like a collapsing star. She wasn't a superior being. She was a puppet who'd forgotten her strings. So what happens now? Kaida asked, her voice barely a whisper. Elena's smile returned, but it was different now. Almost kind. Now, you get to choose. You can try to fight a war you can't win, or you can accept that maybe, just maybe, the advanced species in this conversation isn't the one sitting on the crystal throne. In the silence that followed, Kaida finally understood the taste her crown had been feeding her all these years. It wasn't the fear of conquered species. It was the flavor of her own delusions.